Welcome to our special On the Move segment, where it's all about travel, transportation, and tourism. Boeing could be making a comeback. Its shares jumping more than 6% Wednesday as the company had better start to the year than had been expected. Now, this is good news after an accident where a door panel flew off mid-flight last year. However, Trump's tariffs may slow things down. Okay, now for more things on all things Boeing, let's turn to Mike Boyd. Mike's the president of the Boyd Group, international and aviation research and consulting firm. Mike, good to see you again. Thanks for coming in.
Hello there.
Let's talk about the reaction to Boeing's narrower than expected loss revenue. And if any company needed a hint of good news, it was certainly Boeing. Are we making too much out of this, or is this really a significant turn?
Well, it's like saying Boeing was 1,000 feet below water before, and now they're only 300 feet underwater. So it's an improvement, but it's not time to break out the bubbly and start drinking champagne. They have challenges in front of them. They still got to work out, and they're all internal.
Okay, let's talk about the significance and the impact of the company selling part of their digital aviation solutions business. Why now? And although it did generate $10.5 billion, what's it going to mean moving forward?
Well, they need cash, number one, but number two, it's not part of the core business. You know, Jeppesen charts, that's part of it. There's a whole slew of things. It's a growing industry, but it's not part of Boeing's core competency. So getting rid of it makes sense. Just get those distractions out of the way. Let's learn to screw airplanes together properly, and then we'll go from there.
You know, I think that you're among the chorus of people saying, look, it's time to get back to the core business. So how is Boeing adapting its delivery strategy in response to the U.S.-China trade tension? China just sent back a ton of aircraft, so clearly the tariff war is already having a significant impact, which could put them back to 1,000 feet below water again.
Well, let's be real blunt. China cut Boeing off pretty much completely about 5 years ago in terms of ordering airplanes. The airplanes that were going over to Zhoushan to be delivered, those are airplanes that have been sitting out in Moses Lake, Idaho or someplace that came off the factory 5 years ago. So, but China really has not ordered airplanes from Boeing in any great numbers for the past 5 years. So even before this tariff stuff started, Boeing, and we put it down several times, Boeing has not been pretty much cut out of the China market. So it's a geopolitical thing, not just a tariff thing, and it's gone long before Donald Trump ever came into office this time around.
Let's talk more about that, though. What do you think the long-term risks are if indeed the Chinese market is evaporating? Where does Boeing go to sell all these aircraft?
The same place they've gone the last 5 years. And I've said it, Boeing is a global airplane manufacturer, but China has not been a part of it to any great degree, or certainly to the degree you might think, over the last 5 years. So this is a geopolitical thing, not just a financial thing. And again, we don't know those airplanes that were turned back from Zhoushan. We're not sure, what the finances was. Keep in mind, they were ordered years ago. There were probably some payments that were made by the operator. So we're not really sure this is entirely a situation where they don't want to pay for them. It's a situation where Boeing has been geopolitically cut out of China effectively for probably, again, the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so they're out of the picture in terms of China. So where do they redirect these planes? You say the same place they've been selling the last 5 years. Well, they've had terrible economic news the past 5 years. What does this global production mean? Delivery timelines? Is it reasonable to think they can find other buyers?
Well, here's the deal. They had several dozen airplanes that were coming off the line when they couldn't sell them right after the MAX fiasco 5 years ago. And those have been sitting around. Those are the airplanes that we're talking about that went over to Zhoushan and had to come back. In terms of building new ones, that was starting again, but that was from old orders. So Boeing has kind of adjusted, but when you're stuck with an airplane order for, say, Xiamen Airlines, it doesn't necessarily translate over to another airline because it was spec'd out for Xiamen, which, by the way, is an excellent airline. And it was spec'd out for a different airline, and that means you can't just easily just give it to someone else. It's hard to do.
Okay, let's talk about Kelly Ortberg. Kind of grade him. How do you think he's doing so far? He really came in at a very difficult time.
Yeah, again, it's a job sane people like you and I wouldn't get near because it's such a deep job to turn around a giant monolith like that. And we're not talking just about airplane manufacture. We're talking about systems, procedures, sloppiness. And again, the US FAA has something to do with it because they didn't give the right oversight. So this guy is really walking through a minefield, and so far he's done well. But the question is, Boeing has really besmirched itself by not investing in the future, and not really having the systems to make sure the airplanes that come out of the factory are absolutely letter perfect.
Okay, so how are they doing in light of the prolonged strike, the morale problems, and just the loss of the Boeing culture, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk about that we have the old McDonnell Douglas culture, which really belonged somewhere in the 1930s. That's what really brought them down, because they focused more on shareholder value rather than on customer value. And keep in mind, we're talking about it now, Boeing has nothing new coming down the pike right now to replace the 737, which can't be stretched or fixed anymore, and that's their main bread and butter. So they really did not invest in the future, and that's what Mr. Ortberg has to look at pretty quickly, because Airbus is on his tail.
Wow. Okay, fascinating stuff. Good stuff. Thank you so much, Mike Boyd. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.